I'm Michelle Beckham Corbin, president of C3 Creating Connections Consulting, a social media marketing strategy firm.
And I'm Mark McCumber, president of McCumber Creations.
Welcome to our new show.
Digitally Speaking.
If you tuned in last month, you may have happened upon a show in which we were talking about visual media and how you can take visual media tools and implement them not only into your marketing plan if you're with a business, but also tools that you can use on your own just for fun. Some of the tools that we talked about last time included Instagram, Vine, Pinterest, and even the notorious Snapchat. So if you want to know why we brought Snapchat up or exactly what Snapchat is, check out Digitally Speaking show number 3 on visual media, and you can find it on the ACTV website or on their YouTube channel.
Very exciting stuff. And I like the Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I like the espionage kind of background of some of the new applications that are coming out. It makes it exciting and keeps it creative and keeps everybody guessing. And there are lots of amazing apps. Just touching base on all the things that we looked at last week, and probably since then they've come up with another dozen or so. So we're all trying to keep up with this whole blitz of the technology age as it accelerates and gets greater and greater. So we're talking about hot topic here, Michelle.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The show definitely is all around breaking news and tools that you can use in your daily life or in your business. And if you really want to know more about that Mission Impossible reference that Mark mentioned, you're really going to have to check out show number 3 just to see what he's talking about. Today, Mark, I thought we might kind of delve into Google+.
Wow. There's a lot going on with that, I understand. So Google Plus is going to give Facebook a run for its money or not? I don't know. We'll have to watch the stocks as they go up and down.
You know, that is the question. Google Plus came out a couple of years ago, and at first people really thought that it was going to give Facebook a run for its money. Initially, at the time, there was a lot of outcry from people using Facebook about privacy issues. And when Google Plus came out, it gave the ability for users to put their different groups of friends into what they call circles. And so, you know, there was always that idea about, if I'm going to share content on Facebook and I'm friends with my boss and my mom, and my grandmother, you know, and my friends from high school, should they all be seeing the exact same piece about, you know, my party at Buffett last night, right, at Riverbend or whatever?
And my outfit.
Yeah, and the pictures, yeah, the outfit.
And my outfit.
You know, or the picture. I actually saw a picture of some folks at a Buffett concert recently, and outside the gates of the concert, they had set up an inflatable pool filled with water, and they were having their own little party.
Little splash party.
That's right, their own little splash party. But you know, at the time, there really wasn't a way on Facebook to prevent some of those other groups of people from seeing your content if you still wanted to be friends with them. So when Google Plus came out with that ability to circle people into certain groups, then you could share the Buffett pictures and just click on, you know, the circle that had your best friends in it. Or if you were going to share something about, you know, a business matter, you could select the circle that had your professional colleagues in that as well, so they would see that particular content. So, so a lot of privacy factors there.
Interesting. I know Facebook has the options where you can categorize people as close friends or acquaintances, and it's a privacy filter of sorts that you can start. How would you compare those two?
Well, good question, because those filters that you're talking about, Mark, didn't used to exist, right? They came out because of Google Plus's entree into the world. So Facebook knew that they had an issue. People were kind of really upset about the privacy issue. And so Facebook does allow you now to create kind of their own circles, you know, your own groups. And you have the opportunity with every update that you share to select the audience for that update. So
More
it's-
options, more security, or at least a little bit more discretion about what you allow out into the public, the digital public, if you will.
Yeah, and I hate to depart from Google Plus, but since we're kind of talking about a comparison between Facebook and G Plus, I do have to bring up something new that's making the rounds and that is terrorizing people, and that is Facebook Graph Search. So I personally have had this for about 6 months. I was a beta user, and Facebook Graph Search allows you to do an intense search, almost like a Google search, to find content about people. Okay, now and I don't know if you've seen this in your own personal Facebook, but there's a message making the rounds right now that people are copying and pasting and sharing.
Yes.
That basically says, Facebook is going, to attack our privacy,
right.
and there is a graph search app.
I've had
that's
several,
out
yes,
there, and that's all false. It's just fear mongering.
Sure.
And in that particular message that people are sharing, they provide steps that people can go through to, help the sender's privacy, and that just really isn't the case. Facebook Graph allows you to dig and find information only on content that was originally posted to the public. Or if you're
Sure.
with, or friends of friends, if you have a connection through some people. But if you and I were not connected and we had no friends in common, I could do a search saying, I want to see every picture that Mark has commented on, every picture that Mark has liked, every picture that Mark has been in or tagged in Cincinnati. The only content that I would be able to see from those queries would be content that was originally posted as public. So here's the key thing, though. So you've had Facebook for a while. Maybe 2009, you made some pretty crazy comments about something that a friend posted publicly, but you didn't pay attention to how they posted it. Boy, those comments can be found by anybody.
Well, and that's an interesting point that you bring up, because I remember when Facebook was really just starting to get its legs, and everybody was, I'm not going to be a part of that, or I am going to be a part of that. It was the whole Big Brother, and you hear all these different things about what they can do. Well, I'm of the assumption that they know everything about us anyway. There's nothing that they don't.
I'm of that
know.
assumption too.
They don't know,
They know where I live.
I'm pretty transparent, as a business person and as a private person. It's pretty easy to tell what Mark's doing most of the time. So I always came up with the Mark's rules of Facebook. I had my own. We're going to write book about Facebook to see how your demeanor, what you should do, what you should say, what you shouldn't say, the whole book of etiquette about Facebook. And I think I just use what my father would just call common sense about it, and not post things that were inflammatory. I didn't get into politics. I didn't get into religion and the whole thing. And that worked for me, but I see now as this has become a much, much more complex means of keeping your privacy or having close friends or using it for business, it's quite a lot to navigate through, and you almost have to understand really well how Facebook operates and again, how Google Plus operates to be able to really navigate through it well. And there's a lot to it. So I think people are still kind of finding their legs through it. And Facebook is changing, we were just talking about this, it's changing so rapidly that you almost can't keep up with the changes. So when these little alarms come up, oh, well, the post the other day to me was, if you don't do this, it was like an ultimatum. I'm going to have to kick you off as my friend, because they're going to be able to find out everything. It's like looking in my closet. They'll know everything about me then. But, as you say, false alarms, et cetera, and fear-mongering, I think is a practical approach to a lot of these things when people who maybe don't use them as often as maybe especially yourself or even I, to sorting through all of this to say, hey, what's real and what's just drama, if you will.
Yeah, and I actually posted something about this recently on my Facebook just because I had gotten one of those messages, and I had seen some other examples of people posting inaccurate information that just was going viral. And the one piece of advice that I have for people, and as you mentioned, people maybe that aren't as Facebook savvy as we might be, is to check out a website called Snopes.com. Snopes records all kinds of viral messages that are incorrect. And if you hear about something and you're kind of wondering, is this really true? Did Facebook really come out with this? Go to Snopes, put those keywords in, and see what comes up. And Snopes investigates everything and gives evidence-based reasons for something that to be accurate or inaccurate, and that's what I would recommend.
And just, ladies and gentlemen, mommies, daddies, boys and girls out there in the viewing audience, this is a brave new world that we're entering into with the new digital reality and the ability, and things have happened so quickly. I mean, even within the last 5 years of how this stuff has grown so quickly, it's hard to stay up on top of all the possibilities. Now, the exciting thing is there are amazing possibilities of what all these tools can now do for us that years ago, it was like a step back to our last conversation in the last meeting, was when we used to look up information via encyclopedias. Now we have this wealth of amazing information and tools that have never ever been accessible before to people who maybe were not deep into the industry, programmers, people who really understood computers and could program, and this whole new world of Google and Facebook and all these new amazing applications are now really starting to connect people, not just with each other, but with information and people all over the world. And it's a really interesting time. I find it to be incredibly fascinating sociologically, anthropologically speaking, about how this is all going to affect us, because 10, 15 years down the line, think about where the world is going to be as a result of these inventions, these discoveries.
And I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't some degree programs kind of arising on college campuses today that really get into the psychology, the behavior behind how people are sharing and what they're doing online. And you bring up a really good point in terms of the capability. When we think about Facebook, we really think about it as kind of the fun place to kind of share what's happening in our lives. Google Plus really has kind of emerged as more of that professional place. When it first came out a couple of years ago, it was invitation only. And the folks that were jumping in initially truly were the tech, I don't want to say tech geeks, but the folks that were very focused on technology. So that was kind of the people that were hanging out in that particular community. And then when Google Plus opened up to the public in general, other folks jumped in as well. But Google Plus is the ability, or is a place where you can share information similar to Facebook. You can share photos and share links. Share content that's original or from other places, obviously with attribution, as we talked about in our last show. But the beautiful thing is, just like Twitter, with Google Plus, you can follow anybody in the world. It doesn't need to be that reciprocal, I invite you, you accept kind of a situation that a Facebook would have or a LinkedIn would have. And so, this is an opportunity for anyone to connect with people that they never would have had an opportunity to. Yeah. Whether it's a famous writer or an actor, or with you being in the music field and artistic field, maybe connecting with people in another country that you never would have had an opportunity to. So it is an absolutely fabulous place to share and to be in conversation.
And to gain access to all this amazing information, and have that to be able to make this, it's like in any business, the more information you have, the more input that you have, the better your decision making as it applies, well, to your business and maybe even your life. more is better in that regard, because you can get all this input that was never before able to get easily. Now, at a click of a button, and a lot of these programs and apps are amazingly well designed from the level of intuitiveness. So once you get on them a little bit, and other than Facebook, and we're playing games with us like they do because they can, and changing things on us to keep us guessing. It's like a good puzzle or a good card game or something where they're always changing things to keep you on your game and keep up with the change. An amazing amount of stuff that is available to us now for use personally or for business, and our ability to be able to gain information and go places. But with all that advancement, I'd like to ask for a prediction. What do you think is going to happen in the next short term, year, two? Who do you think is going to win the war, Google or Facebook? How do you think they're creatively making each other adjust, and how do you think that's going to all affect us even more in the next upcoming year or two? And what do you see happening out of these social medias, and how they grow, expand, and morph into their next generation?
Boy, that's a big question. And if I had the crystal ball, I would be a rich woman right now. But from my perspective, Mark, I would say right now we're really looking at two different tools. Just as LinkedIn and Facebook are very, very different, used very differently. LinkedIn being that professional place for social networking. Google Plus I see truly as more of a professional tool, and not professional so much as LinkedIn, because obviously you can have folks that are not using it for professional reasons but are using it for information, as you mentioned, or that opportunity to get into conversation with people that they would not have had an opportunity to do so. So I see them continuing to evolve on their own trajectories for different reasons. The key thing with Google Plus is, as I've mentioned, you have that opportunity to kind of be in conversation with that person that you might not have had an opportunity. But you also have the opportunity to be in video chat, and I just think that's huge. Google Plus has an ability to converse with people via webcam, and it's called a Google Hangout. You actually can get yourself and 9 other people together in kind of a digital room, and you can see all 10 folks together, and you can converse. Now, the beauty of this is, if you have a business, you can take that conversation in that virtual group and go live. It's called Google On Air. And so you can broadcast that discussion out to the world for an infinite number of people to be able to see. To be able to see at that time, or also to be able to see later, because the video is captured in YouTube. And who owns YouTube? Google.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, now we're kind of talking my language with interpersonal communication, and it's nice to see that now technology, which was about your thumbs for quite some time, is now going to be getting into real interpersonal interaction, and I think that'll be interesting to watch to see how that goes. The other thing that's interesting is that now, of course, Facebook is starting to try to figure out ways to drive revenue streams to them with buying ads, et cetera, and I'd be curious to see how this morphs, and whether these are going to become actually paid services at some point, or whether they're still going to remain open, free for people to use and utilize in their personal and professional lives. So
well, the free option is always good, right? Especially small business owners, really any type of business owner is always looking for things that they can have for free. And if we go back to this whole idea of Google Hangouts on Air, imagine if you have information that you want to share, whether it's your music, whether, maybe for me it was sharing a seminar on how to use Google Plus, or how to create social media marketing strategy for your business. I can create this webinar have it live again so that people can see, you know, as I'm doing it. And the beautiful thing is, even though you can only have 9 other people kind of on camera with you, the folks that virtual or that unlimited number of people that can view the broadcast, they all have the ability to comment right within the Hangout. And so you actually can read the comments while you're kind of live and broadcasting and answer questions, so that that kind of third tier audience out there can really feel like they are part of the live broadcast. And so the beauty of that is many other companies were charging hundreds of dollars to be able to create webinars that you could share with, you know, over 100 people at one time. So this is a wonderful free tool. And Google Plus is not just for we individuals. There's an opportunity for a business to create a business page on Google Plus. Now, the thing that I think is really fascinating and something that should make every business owner run to Google Plus is the fact that when we share content on Google Plus, people have the ability to do what we call plus one it. So if you're used to Facebook, think of it as the thumbs up on Facebook where you can like something. And so when people are interacting with that Google Plus content, simply plus one-ing it or sharing it or commenting on it, we're adding more Google juice to whatever that content is. Since Google Plus is part of Google, you know, the biggest search engine out there, every single thing that you're sharing on Google Plus is going into that whole, you know, this is your area, I know, with the web development, that whole spider crawl searching for new information. And so the more kind of plus ones on a piece of content, the higher it's going to be valued in search. So when somebody is searching for something, that could pop up. I was playing around earlier today. I recently loaded one of our shows, Digitally Speaking, to my Google Plus site, and I noticed that even without using the hashtag, some of the keywords like ACTV and Anderson Community Television, when I did a search, my Google Plus post came up in the search results because of the keywords I had used in the actual update. So if you want to game the system, you want your business name to reach higher in search results, really need to be on Google Plus and sharing good content with keywords that people are going to touch.
Michelle's hot tip of the day, ladies and gentlemen. That is very, very important information for our viewing audience to assimilate in ways that they can use that, because I think that's what we're all looking for in the business world, not so much in the personal world, but in the business world. We're looking for things that can help us get a competitive edge, get an edge, get us more oxygen face time, get to our segment better, get to our target market better, and those are great tips that everybody can use and apply very quickly into their business worlds and personal worlds too, to some degree. That's all really, really good stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing continues to happen with Google Plus and Facebook in this, whether they are really competing against each other, or they find their own niches in the place to get along nicely.
Yeah, I think right now I kind of see that happening. And I really encourage people to go to Google Plus and take a look at it. The format, they've retooled it, and the layout is just gorgeous. It looks very much like Pinterest. It's very visually based. Folks watching this broadcast will be able to see an example of my Google Plus page and also my albums. Google Plus has the ability for you to share photos, and you can create albums much like Facebook that are just, they're beautiful. They're just very just a riveting display of your work. And you know, the last thing I wanted to mention with Google Plus is that ability to create circles, not just of your colleagues, your management team, friends, etc., but you can create circles that that are defined by a particular category. So, for example, I love photography. It's a talent I don't have. So I love to look at other people's work. And I have a circle that is made up of all photographers. And so when I want to view content in my personal stream, I can just click on my photography circle, and then all I see are just these beautiful images and conversations around the images. So you can really use it as a great source of information for yourself, categorized by the different things that are important to you. And then that way, boy, you get a lot of great information without having to do the Google search or Bing search, or going old school and looking in those old encyclopedias. You've got that fresh new content that's being delivered right to your door in the way that you would like to see it.
A more refined version of the favorites list, where it becomes a filter that you just continually keep things focused more into whatever point of interest you're looking for.
Yeah.
All good stuff.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
really
and
good
one
stuff.
last tip too that I wanted to mention is if someone starts to follow you on Google Plus, you don't have to follow back. I mean, be smart about it. If it's somebody that you really want to connect with, that's fine. But don't feel like it's you sent me an invitation, I must follow you back kind of a thing.
Got
It
it.
doesn't have to be
Sure,
a
sure.
one-for-one situation.
We're loose in the Google Plus world there. We don't have to, we
Yeah.
don't have to engage if we don't want to.
No hurt feelings. You're
That's
right. You're right.
That's part of the digital world a little bit. You get a little bit of digital callousness, where you can just say, hey, my feelings won't be hurt, digitally speaking.
Digitally speaking, that's right.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. But my feelings won't be hurt if you don't like me, or give me the thumbs up or the plus sign or whatever it is. But man, this is all just amazing stuff, and with all the apps, and then of course Facebook and Google Plus and all the amazing things that you can do with these things, kind of leads us into the topic of when you get into the techie piece of this, the analytics, where the possibilities to really study data and look at things in depth as how they may affect you business-wise, and how you use these tools, and how you look for answers to all these questions of how do I get into this market? How do I segment this? How do I really find out who my people are that are going to want my service or my product? And this is all great fodder for topic, possibly for our next show.
That's right.
Is to get into the analytics of it, and I'm sure you have a lot to share, and I'm sure that really starts getting into a more advanced, intermediate level of understanding, but there are still a lot of practical things that everyone can do to become aware of how they work, and I think just in the little bits of understanding of how they work, how you use these tools to advance yourself.
Absolutely. And it comes down to, number one, how should you go about determining what to measure? And what are the tools that are already built into some of the social media platforms that you're using, so that kind of come free, right, with the territory? And as you mentioned, there are businesses that will need the more complicated, in-depth analysis.
Yeah.
And there are tools out there that will serve them well for that as well. The key thing, I think, is to remember that analytics are very important. I mean, we all have a focus on return on investment, right? And we want to make sure that our efforts are having some kind of a benefit back to the company. And so having good tools, objectives, and measurements in place will help you get to that point.
All great stuff, Michelle. Great stuff. So I look forward to exploring this on our next show. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody again in our viewing audience. Thank ACTV for their great facility and for hosting our show for us. So on behalf of Michelle and myself, thank you for coming to Digitally Speaking, and don't forget to watch our next episode.
We'll see you next time.